Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands from which we are broadcasting today. I'm broadcasting from the lands of the Widjabul-Waiable people of the Bundjalung Nation. We pay our respects to the elders of the land, both past and present, and we also extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people attending the live webinar or watching the recording. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this Legal Aid New South Wales Law for Community Worker webinar on how to spot a scam. My name is Bridget Barker, and I work in the Community Legal Education branch at Legal Aid New South Wales. The session will be about an hour and a half in total, including time for questions and answers at the end. After the webinar, you will receive an evaluation survey, and we do appreciate your feedback, and I can let you know that we collate that feedback and we use it in our planning for webinars and podcasts in the coming year. I'd like to welcome your presenters today. We have Hipkin, a solicitor in Legal Aid New South Wales Consumer Law team. Welcome, Finn. And
Thanks,
I'd
Bridget.
also welcome Carleen McConnell from New South Wales Fair Trading. Welcome, Carleen.
Thanks, Bridget.
Looks like your camera's just gone off again, Carleen. It seems to be a bit of, there you go. Now we can see your lovely face. Thanks for that. Okay. This is our first message for everybody today. Scams target everybody. So we'll move on. Carleen, if you'd like to tell us a bit about the impact of scams.
Yes, sadly, $381 million was lost so far in scams in 2022, which is quite alarming. Most money was lost to scams sent by phone calls or texts, over 110 million, followed by email, 48 million. The most money lost by people over 65, which was 82 million, followed by 45 to 54-year-olds, over 58 million, which is quite alarming. Both men, 59%, women, 40%, were vulnerable to losing money to scams. So there's a lot of money going out of Australia to scams.
Thanks, Carleen. And I'm sorry, everybody, I forgot to let you know that we have lovely Erin and Susanna, who are Auslan interpreters for our webinar today. And I thank them for joining us for the webinar. So there are many types of scams out there. Finn, what are the top 3 scams?
Yeah, so look, I mean, I might start by going into some statistics on the scams, but before I do that, I mean, the top 3 scams that we're seeing at the moment are dating and romance scams. So often via dating websites, apps, or social media. Buying or selling scams or investment opportunities is another another big type of scam. And then finally, payment redirection scams. ScamWatch received a total of 234,672 reports of scams with losses at over 397 million. 72.5% of those involved impersonation. Scams where scammers are pretending to be people or organizations that they are not. There were 81,093 total reports made on common impersonation scam categories, with losses totaling around 92 million. And then under that sort of heading of the most reported impersonation scams were road toll scams, 19,141 reports. Australian government impersonation scams with just under 18,000 reports, and then what have become known as the high mum or family impersonation scams with around 9,300 reports. Thanks, Bridget.
That's certainly a lot. And other scams that we've got on screen include attempts to gain your personal information, fake charities seeking donations, threats and extortion, including malware and threats of fines or arrest or even violence, job and employment scams, unexpected money inheritance and rebate scams, and then the unexpected winnings, such as lottery tickets and prize giveaways. So ScamWatch, which is part of the ACCC, has a big focus. Sorry, I've just lost my screen there. On consumer awareness and education. Scams are becoming more sophisticated and are harder to spot. Australians reported a record 3.1 billion lost to scams last year, which was an 80% increase than the previous year. So as we know, the true cost of scams is more than a dollar figure, and they have a devastating impact on people's lives. In July this year, the ACCC and the government launched a national anti-scam centre. It brings together experts from government and the private sector to try and work on tackling scams. When it comes to scams, the best method of approaching it is to prevent becoming a victim rather than trying to deal with things after you've been scammed. We know that if people are educated about scams and are aware of them, they're less likely to become a victim to them. So we wanted to let you know that you can subscribe to receive alerts from the new National Anti-Scam Centre. It's an email alert system that you can sign up for, and we will include a link to that in the email that you will receive from us following today's webinar. And also there's a great publication called The Little Black Book of Scams. It's a quick reference guide to scams. It's short and easy to read, and it is available in 10 languages online. And we'll provide a link to that as well in the email you receive following the webinar. This is our second key message for today. If something seems too good to be true, it is. It's an old saying, but it's true. And when you're dealing with uninvited contacts from people or businesses, whether it's over the phone, by mail or email or in person, or on a social networking site, just always consider whether the approach might be a scam. Remember, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. So let's have a look at some scams that are happening now. Finn, what are these latest ones?
Sorry, just 1 second.
We've got the these probably aren't the most recent. We've got some other slides with more recent ones, but the Optus and Medibank private data breaches and the scams that stemmed from those.
These are certainly scams that have been on the radar for some time, and what you can see there are the Optus and Medibank private data breaches and associated scams from some months ago. One of the focuses of Scam Week this week is impersonation scams, and impersonation scams comprise something like 72.5% of scams that are reported to the National Anti-Scam Centre via ScamWatch, and these involve impersonation of a real organisation or person. I get these scams quite a lot. Most recently, it's been a lot of toll notifications where you get a text message saying that there's an unpaid toll, and you click on a link, and it takes you to a site that installs malware on your phones. I mean, this kind of thing makes scams really hard to spot, and they can come through as phone calls, text messages, emails, and social media posts. So coming back to that, the category of impersonation scams where people are losing money via text messages, the three categories that we're asking people to be aware of this scam week are bank impersonation scams, where you get correspondence from a bank. It might actually be your bank and in some circumstances, scammers can actually infiltrate actual correspondence between you and the bank as a way of trying to steal your money. And this year, 1.33 million has been lost through those scams. Hi mum or family impersonation scams, where you may receive a text message purporting to be from a son or daughter or child that says, I'm in need of some financial assistance. I've lost my phone, and then asking people to transfer money into scammers' accounts. 1.3 million lost there. And then government impersonation scams, where 614,000 odd money has been lost by people impersonating Centrelink, the AFP, and other government departments. Around 16.5% of these impersonation scams report loss of personal information that can result in future misuse and financial loss. And it's the over 55 and over 65 age group accounting for 56% of total losses. Now, scams such as these are often sort of under the category of what we call remote access scams, where you receive a phone call from a person pretending to be a bank or government agency, and then they ask for remote access to your computer. In terms of the sort of key signs of impersonation scams, you might receive a message that asks you to click on a link that takes you to a web page asking for your username, password, or personal information. You're often asked to provide details or money urgently. An organization that you think is real tells you there's been some sort of unauthorized transaction or asks you to confirm a payment that you didn't make. In some cases, you're asked to transfer money to an account to keep it safe or for further investigation. Or finally, a sale, investment, or job offer looks too good to be true.
Thank you, Finn. Carleen, what about investment scams?
Yeah, Australians lost 158 million to investment scams between January and May 2022, and this is an increase of 314% compared to the same period in 2021. So how do we avoid these scams? Don't automatically assume the person you are dealing with is who they say they are. Slow down and ask yourself, who's really there? Don't click on links to text messages. Immediately cut contact with anyone who tries to threaten or intimidate you. That's really important. Don't open or download any attachments or apps if instructed, as these can install malicious software onto your computer or phone, giving access to your personal information. Consumers are urged to stop, think, and protect themselves. Don't give your money or personal information to anyone if unsure. Ask yourself, could the message or call be a fake? Protect yourself. Act quickly if something feels wrong. Independently verify who you're dealing with before you give any money or personal information by either contacting the person or organisation directly, using the contact details that you've found yourself, or accessing the organisation's secure, authenticated portal or app, never via a link. If someone you know sends you a message to say that they have a new phone number, try to call them on the existing number that you already have for them. Do online research of people and organisations you've only dealt with online before paying any money. Search the name online together with the word scam. Check the correct registration details of organisations through registers such as MoneySmart, Financial Advisors Register, and the Australian Charity Register for Charities.
Thank you. I'll just let our audience know that I've just realised that the slides that I was sharing don't seem to be the latest version, and I'm just taking a moment to update and make sure that we've got.
While you do that, Bridget, perhaps I'll share some more recent personal experiences I've had receiving
That'd be great. Thank you, Finn.
scam messages, just because it can be quite interesting. Luckily, I haven't actually got to the point where I've clicked on the links and been scammed. But the thing that often concerns people and that can concern me is often you get genuine correspondence from a bank or an insurance company or a government department or whoever it may be, and that correspondence might genuinely be quite important to you and to the way you lead your life. I mean, I received an email recently from an insurance company who I actually do pay premiums to, and they were saying, oh, you're entitled to a refund of $50 or so for some mistake that they had made. But of course, knowing all I do about scams, I was very concerned that it wasn't genuine. It wasn't genuine correspondence. But as Carleen described in the last slide, what I did was, rather than call the number in the email itself, I then went away to the to Google and typed in the name of the insurer and independently verified the number, and then called the insurer to check that it was was real correspondence. Scams are very much at the forefront of lawmakers and the government's mind at the moment. And one of the things that that they talk about is people entering into the hot zone before they get scammed. So I think that a big part of today is really helping people understand that when you do receive correspondence that you're not sure about, to kind of take a step back and think, you know, is this actually genuine correspondence? Even if I'm 90% sure that it's genuine correspondence, what can I do to check that? And to sort of try and get out of that hot zone where people generally fall victim. And I know other people that get lots of different scams, and everyone has their own stories.
That's right. Apologies, everybody. I think I've had a bit of an issue with the presentation. I'll make sure that I send a copy of the most up-to-date presentation to everybody following the webinar. So how can you protect yourself from scams? If you've only ever met someone online, or you're not sure if the business is real, as Finn said, it's good to do a bit more research. You can do a Google image search on photos, or search the internet for others who may have had dealings with the person that you're in contact with. You can do an internet search of the bank or company and call an officially listed number to check if they contacted you, just as Finn suggested. We would advise you not to open suspicious texts, pop-up windows, or click on links or attachments in emails. Delete them. I think that taking a pause and just asking yourself whether this is genuine and finding another way to double check is the safest thing. Don't respond to phone calls about your computer asking for remote access. Hang up. Don't ever provide anybody with your personal or banking information, or grant remote access to any of your devices. Be wary of unusual payment requests. And if a message or email comes from a friend and it seems unusual or out of character for that person, contact them directly to check that it was really them that sent you that email or contact. You can also check the login activity for your accounts and sign out of any unrecognized devices. Check your social media accounts, update your passwords, and do privacy and security checks. We also have other scams that are out there, missed calls or voice message scams. And I'll ask Finn to have a chat to you about these. Is this matching up with what you've got, Finn, now?
It's
or
not, but what I'm going to do is, because these are scams that come through quite a lot. And I know these were the focus of the last scam presentation we did. So I'm going to talk quickly about these, and then I'm going to talk about bank impersonation scams.
Yes, because that is the focus.
That's the focus.
This Scams Awareness Week. I'm sorry, everybody.
But I think what this goes to show is that there are just so many different types of scams, and they rapidly evolve. So so 1 month, the flavor of the month might be missed calls or voice message scams, and next it might be bank impersonation scams. So you really have to be on top of just having an awareness when you receive correspondence and as to whether it's genuine or not. So the messages on screen are examples of these sort of missed call or voice message scams. So you can see on the right hand side, there's poor spelling is often an indication of these kinds of messages being scams. It's very rare that, or sometimes never, that a genuine organisation will actually send you a link to click. So that's always a red alert as well. Moving on to bank impersonation scams, which is the focus of this scam week, because it's something that's popping up quite a lot. I'll share with you a case study that kind of illustrates the harm and just how quickly someone can fall into the trap of engaging with scammers. So Kelly's story involves a woman, Kelly, who got a call from someone saying that she was from the bank's fraud team, and they said that it was her bank. The person told Kelly she was calling to confirm a transaction of $17,000 for accommodation and car hire in New Zealand. Kelly had nothing to do with accommodation or a hire car in New Zealand, so was immediately worried and didn't know anything about the transaction. Then the caller told Kelly about another transaction from her account, which was one that she had actually made. The caller told Kelly that she had to secure her account to stop further unauthorized use. Kelly became panicked and followed the caller's instructions and logged into her online banking account while she was on the phone to this person. The person told her to change her password and gave her a temporary password to use. Kelly didn't appreciate that what she was actually doing in changing her password was giving the scammers access to her account. She did feel relieved when she saw that there was no $17,000 transaction on her account, but then the call dropped out and Kelly got another call, this time from her actual bank, telling her that her entire savings of $48,000 had been withdrawn and converted into cryptocurrency, and that she was not likely to get it back. So this scam, an impersonation scam, uses a trusted organization, so Kelly's bank. It uses a threat of losing money and a sense of urgency that makes us act. And that's harking back to what I was talking about with being in the hot zone. I mean, in this particular example, Kelly became panicked and she was in a zone where she was fearful that she was going to lose money. So she trusted the person on the other side of the phone without making her own inquiries. So the lesson from this is that if you receive unexpected or suspicious contact from someone that claims to be your bank, stop the contact immediately, and then find a genuine number for your bank and just call them back. You know, the worst that can happen there is that you've hung up on your actual bank, but then you get back in contact with them. But at the end of the day, it's worth protecting yourself in that way, and that's something that I do in my personal life. If I get a call from someone who I don't know saying that they're from my bank, I'll hang up and then I'll I'll call them back. The other thing is to always take the time to independently contact your bank using a secure app or trusted number that you've verified yourself, and never to be pressured into giving someone your private information. And then finally, report the scam to ScamWatch so that they can warn others and disrupt the scam.
Thanks, Finn. So the next section that we have is about another type of scam, flu bot scams. and they're everywhere. Is this matching up with your notes, Finn, or not?
It's not, but again, it is these Flubot scams. They were relevant some months ago, and they're still relevant now. So these are scams where a person gets a text message containing a PHP link, like the ones that you can see on the screen in blue. If you click the link, you're invited to install software, and the way they get you in is by saying, for example, that a package is about to be delivered. And I don't know about everyone listening, but a lot of the time I'm expecting a package, and if I get a text message saying, you know, your package has been lost or delayed, it immediately causes some panic. But I'm very aware that it's a way of scammers trying to get through to me and trying to get me to click on that link. And if I do so, it will install what we call malware, which gives the scammer access to to your phone and therefore to your online banking. So I think the same the same lesson that we've spoken about previously applies. If you receive correspondence that you're and there are red flags, don't click on it. Don't take the phone call. But then go and contact the organisation who you're expecting correspondence from independently, and avoid going down the path of clicking links in text messages.
Yes, and there are some telltale signs. The link doesn't appear to be related to what the message is supposed to be about. There's often spelling mistakes, as Finn pointed out earlier, or an I replaced with a 1. And you should never have to install any software to be able to view or track a voicemail or delivery. So if you do click a link and you're prompted to do that, just pause and before you do it, and best not to do it and try and find an official way to check. Okay, so Carleen, what do we need to do?
So to protect yourself, don't react straight away. Don't click on links or download any files. Don't respond to pop-up messages or calls about problems with your computer, as Bridget pointed out earlier. Do slow down and reread the message so that you're making sure that you're understanding what the message is. Ask questions and dig a little deeper, or go and do your own research and make your own calls. Make decisions in your own time. Never feel pressured to make decisions on the spot. Go away and talk to family members and do your own research.
Thanks, Carleen. So avoiding scams. We'll now look at how you can avoid them by focusing on the 3 main steps that you can take. Firstly, to protect your identity and personal details. Secondly, do your own research. And thirdly, get help and report the scammer if you do, unfortunately, fall victim to a scam.
Okay, so the first of those things is protecting your identity. I mean, what can you do if you accidentally give a scammer your bank details, or you realize that you have fallen victim to a scam? Act as quickly as possible and call your bank. Ask them to put a stop on any transactions that have been made. If you're not sure whether you're being scammed or not, stop sending money. Scammers will keep asking you for money until you stop. But the main takeaway is that if you've gone down the path of accidentally clicking a link or accidentally providing a password to someone over the phone, which you should never do, but if you do, call your bank immediately. That's the first step you should take, because the money can very quickly disappear. And under the law, it can be very hard in Australia, in this jurisdiction, to get the money back. The second thing you can do is to warn your friends and family. so that they're aware of the scam that's going around and that it doesn't happen to them. Because as we know, we all have similar experiences. I'm sure I'm not the only person here who has received a text message saying that I have overdue toll accounts, for example. If you think your bank has done the wrong thing and that you've lost money through a scam because of what your bank has done, you can make a complaint directly to the bank and you can go to the Australian Financial Complaints Authority. But there are limited circumstances where that's going to be useful once the money has actually gone. So the main thing is to call the bank immediately and put a stop on any transactions. You can speak to Law Access for information about scams. You can report the scam to ScamWatch, and you can report to New South Wales Fair Trading. And I think Carleen might talk to that point in a bit more detail.
Yes, if you call Fair Trading, we can actually, and give us the information about what's happening in your community. If you know that there's a scam out there, we can actually put out a media release so that we can warn all of the community that this scam is actually rotating around the community and to be aware. So if you call Fair Trading on 13 32 20, we can make sure that we get that information out to the community. Or if you have been scammed or you think you have been scammed, you can actually lodge a complaint online with Fair Trading or go down to Service New South Wales and lodge the complaint there.
Thanks, Carleen. Okay, the next message is do your own research. Kim gets a text message asking her to click on the link provided to track her DHL package. Carleen, what should Kim do?
Kim should not click on the tracking link at all. She should do her own research. So she should research the company by searching their business name and reading their reviews, and then call the business number, not the number provided in the text message, and ask the questions and decide if the text message is legitimate. Kim should report the scam to ScamWatch or New South Wales Fair Trading.
Thank you. Okay, so how can the law help me if my identity details have been stolen?
Yeah, so if your identity details have been stolen, it can be quite scary. You can speak with Law Access for some information about your options. You can also speak with your local police, who in some circumstances will get involved in assisting. And then the other organisation I'd like you to be aware of is ID Care. And on the next slide, I think we have ID Care's details. It's
right.
And the number you can call is 1800 595 160. ID Care is an Australian and New Zealand national identity and cyber support service. It helps thousands of Australians and New Zealanders, both individuals and organisations, in reducing the harm that they experience from the compromise and misuse of their identity information. They provide a sort of response and mitigation package, and I understand that each package that they assist people with is tailored to the individual circumstances. So if you find yourself in a situation where you think your ID has been stolen or your identity has been compromised, you can contact ID Care for assistance from them.
Thank you. So as we've said, it's Scams Awareness Week, and the focus this year is on impersonation scams. And we'd like you to talk to everybody you know about scams. Ask the question, have you ever been scammed? Or what's your top tip to avoid scams? Listen and learn from each other and create safe spaces to talk about scams. And keep talking. Awareness is your best defense against scams. And the more you talk to others, the more you become aware that you're probably all experiencing the same issues with scams. Okay, Carleen, so who else can people report to?
Yes, so if it's a banking incident, you can talk to your bank or your financial institution. If it's something to do with Centrelink or Medicare, Services Australia have a scams and identity theft help desk. If it's cybercrime, you can report to Report Cyber. Financial investment scams, the Australian Securities and Investment Commission. If it's fraud and theft, obviously your local police or a lawyer. Image-based abuse, Office of the E-Safety Commissioner. Spam, Australian Communications and Media Authority, or if it's a tax-related scam, the Australian Taxation Office, obviously.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to run a poll now just to ask the audience some questions. I'm hoping that you can see that on your screen now. And you can participate in the poll by clicking on your screen. So the first question is, reporting scams to ScamWatch helps everybody, and your choices are true or false. The next question is, New South Wales Fair Trading can help if you are scammed by a business operating in New South Wales. The third question is, you can get legal advice if you are a victim of a fraud. Or legal information, and if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And lastly, scams make you think you must do something urgently. Okay, I'll just close that off and share the results. Is everyone seeing the results on screen? Okay.
Yep. Spot on.
So yes, it looks like everyone has got the message. Reporting scams to ScamWatch does help everybody, and also with the National Anti-Scam Centre, the more that you report, the better information they're going to have to tackle scams. Of course, New South Wales Fair Trading can help you if you're scammed by a business operating in New South Wales, and you can seek legal advice. We would refer you to Law Access to get some information and referral if you experience being the victim of a scam. If it's too good to be true, yes, it probably is. So just always keep a bit of suspicion in the back of your mind. And scams always make you think you must do something urgently. So yes, that's right. Thanks, everybody. Okay. So as I said, you can seek some assistance by ringing Law Access New South Wales, and the number is on the screen now, 1300 888 529. And there is a website as well that has a lot of information and resources, www.lawaccess.nsw.gov.au. And these are other contacts that you can reach out to. Fair Trading New South Wales has a telephone number 133220. You can contact ScamWatch on 1300 795 995. You can contact the police, particularly if it involves fraud or theft, 131 444. And ID Care that Finn spoke about, you can contact them on 1800 595 160. The E-Safety Commissioner has a website, that's www.esafety.gov.au. And there's also the Do Not Call register, which is www.donotcall.gov.au. You can register yourself on that register, so that should cut out scam type calls, but you will still receive calls from registered charities. So thanks, everybody. We've got time for questions now. And on screen, we also have the CLE branch email address if there's anything that occurs to you after the webinar today. You will receive a copy of the most updated slides, and I apologise. I don't know why I can't access the latest version for the webinar today, but they were updated for this year's Scam Awareness Week, and I will send a copy of the handout to everybody after the webinar today. And the ID Care contact number will also be in the email that you receive following the webinar today. It doesn't look like at the moment we have any questions. If the audience would like to type any in, we've got time. I've just put the slide back on screen that has the ID Care contact number.
I'd encourage everyone to have a look at the ScamWatch website. It's very instructive when it comes to details of the latest scams. And as we've learned today, the kinds of scams that are coming out change rapidly. And ScamWatch does a good job of summarizing the main scams and describing what they are. So I'd encourage people to have a look at that website.
Someone's just asked, can more be done to prevent scams from happening?
It's a really good.
I mean, yes.
I mean, it's a really good question. I think one of the reasons why scams are so problematic and so difficult is because they're not necessarily the people doing the scams are not necessarily in Australia. So I think law enforcement has difficulties shutting down scams that may be from overseas. But I think there's a lot more that can be done to prevent scams from happening. And then I also think there's a lot of additional protections that we could have in place under the law in Australia to protect individuals that have been subject to scams. Without going into too much detail, if you have a look at the way that the United Kingdom, the banks over there approach reimbursing victims of scams compared to here, you'll notice a difference. It's rare that scam victims are reimbursed here, but in the United Kingdom, it's more common. So it's a really big question, and I think you know, it's one that's going to be on the agenda for the foreseeable future.
Yes, that's very true. Someone has asked, will bogus links on the phone auto-install malware when clicked, or is there usually a second link they ask you to click?
It's a good question, and I don't know the answer. I've never clicked on one of the links, and I'm not aware that you have to click on a second link once you click on the first. It's definitely possible. I don't know the answer, but I suppose I would reiterate the advice that we've been given throughout the webinar is if you do receive a text message with a link that you're unsure about, you know, don't click on it. Make your own independent inquiries, and hopefully you'll never know what happens after you click that first link.
Yes, that is the hope for everybody.
Yeah.
Radha has shared with us that when she was scammed, it took 1 hour to get onto her bank to report it. Is there anything that could be done by banks to speed up the response to a ScamWatch call?
I think that there probably is, and I mean, it doesn't seem very good if you've been scammed and then it took you a whole hour to get hold of your bank because of the way because of how quickly money can move. So I'd certainly like to see faster response times within the banks. If you're interested in some further reading, the Australian Securities and Investments Commission, ASIC, has done a report looking at the the way that banks prevent and respond to scams, and that was released this year. And there's some further detail there if you're interested.
Yes, and I guess there's also always the option to lodge a complaint with the bank about the slow response time and ask them to improve their service to customers, because you know, if you're able to reach them in a short space of time, then you're more likely to be able to get a payment stopped, but not if it takes an hour to get through to them. Angela is asking, are there any trustworthy apps or anything that can block unwanted SMS? I mean, that's not something I'm aware of.
Me neither. It's not something I'm aware of. I certainly don't have any, because I continue to receive these unwanted SMSs. But I'm sorry, I can't help you with an answer. It might be something to have a bit of a research into.
Yes, and I guess the issue is that scammers are constantly evolving the way that they approach people and the way that they do things. So, you know, and it might not be possible to have an app that's always up to date. But I think the greatest way to protect yourself is just to pause and think before clicking on anything. And you might be able to set up something in your phone that diverts what appear to be obvious spam messages, because I know that my phone does that, and that is helpful because you're less likely to be caught in a distracted moment.
There's a good question there, Bridget, from Robin. What are some of the ways that scammers have got sneakier and made it harder to spot the scam? And I think you've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what they're doing. Traditionally, you know, scams were relatively easy to pick up, but now they're becoming increasingly sophisticated. A couple of examples that I can give you to answer that question. One of the fake invoice scams. So there are scams going around where people have work done on their house, for example. They have a builder come in to do a new kitchen or whatever it may be, and the scammers can somehow intercept the email that the builder sends to you with the invoice for the work, and then change the details on the invoice to the scammer's account number. So you think you're receiving an invoice from a builder who has performed work, and it may be from their email address, but a scammer has somehow, I don't know how, intercepted that email and changed the account details, that when you transfer the money, you're transferring it into the scammer's bank account. And that's a really tricky one, because you have to be really aware and really really conscious of that scam to undertake steps to protect yourself from that. So even something like that, you know, you could give the builder a call on a number that you know is genuine to make sure that the details are correct. Another way that scammers have got sort of more sophisticated is that they can sometimes actually send you text messages or emails that appear in a chain of genuine, legitimate messages that you've been having with a bank or another institution, and you can understand why people would consider that those messages are genuine when they appear next to other messages that you've got from that same bank or institution. So they are getting more sophisticated and sneakier and harder to spot. And scams can affect everyone from all walks of life. And the hope of the messaging today is that people step back when they receive correspondence or a phone call and just think, you know, who is it on the other end? What steps can I take to protect myself and make sure that I'm corresponding with the right person here?
That's right, and those impersonation scams are extremely sophisticated. I know there was in the news earlier this year a woman who invested her life savings in what she thought was a bank that was offering a good interest rate, and it turned out that it was an impersonation scam where they were impersonating a bank. And so sadly, she lost her life savings and had to return to work. and that's a very tragic situation. And unfortunately, a lot of people find themselves in the same position. So I think we all just need to be very cautious in the way that we transact online.
Yeah.
And Kim's made a comment to that effect, that she has a client with a Steams card, had never heard of them before, and comments that we seem to spend more time trying to avoid scams than using the internet and phones for our own use. And that's very true. Yes.
And there's a good question as well from Sean. If you were educating people with minimal technological literacy, what key points would you emphasize? I think that's a really good question. And I think that, you know, the answer to that is that people should, when they're unfamiliar with certain forms of technology, or they're not sure, they should stop and make their own inquiries, and maybe speak to a trusted friend or relative and ask them what they think before proceeding with responding to something. But, you know, I think if in doubt, you know, don't click, don't provide passwords online, don't provide passwords over the telephone or things of that nature, and step back and make your own inquiries.
That's right. And look, Karen has just shared with us an announcement today about banking measures for scams. Scam Safe Accord, it's $100 million investment by the industry in a new confirmation of pay system to be rolled out across all Australian banks. Confirmation of payee will help reduce scams by ensuring people can confirm they are transferring money to the person they intend to. That's great news, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I suppose it only goes so far. Some of the circumstances that we've talked about today are those where a person is so sure that the person they're transferring money to is a genuine person. So, I mean, to one extent, a confirmation of payee system will just mean that the person clicks, yeah, I confirm that that's the person I'm transferring the money to, when it is in fact a scammer. But I think that it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I guess it gives you that second moment to pause and consider,
Yes.
is this genuine? And it might help some people from proceeding.
Yeah.
Might give them pause for thought.
And Sherelle has noted that her bank rang her when she went to transfer money to a builder, and wouldn't proceed with the payment unless she'd personally phoned and spoken with the builder. So that's a positive step that your bank's taken there, Sherelle, to make sure that the transaction was genuine, and potentially that is in light of the scam I spoke about earlier with the invoices. So
we've had another question from Cooler Library, and thanks for joining us from Cooler Library today, everybody. Whether PayPal is the best or safest way to make payments on the internet.
There's a number of ways you can make payments online. I know that PayPal is considered, is generally considered quite a safe way of making payment, but of course that relies on you making sure that the person on the other end of the transaction is who they say they are. But you know, making online transactions with your bank can also be safe, so long as you're confident that the person you're transferring the money to is indeed the intended recipient.
Someone has said, can more be done to prevent scams from happening? Well, I mean, there is the new National Anti-Scam Centre, and hopefully they'll be able to work towards assisting Australians to not fall victim to scams. But I think there's also a certain level of personal knowledge and awareness and responsibility that we probably all need to try and take, because unfortunately there are so many scammers out there. And that's what we're hoping to do with this webinar, is raise awareness on the ways that you can protect yourself, and always double checking and trying to find an official number or and an alternative way to contact an organisation before you transfer money is probably the best way that you can protect yourself. And always hesitate before clicking on links that you might receive in text messages. I know I've almost done it myself. It's very easy in a distracted moment, particularly because scammers are so clever at sending you a message just when you've done some kind of related transaction.
Yeah.
And that's the difficulty with it.
And the so I won't go on for too long, but I mean the other key way that scammers have sort of changed, though I suppose they have always been like this, is to kind of play on people's emotions. So
yes,
traditionally it was the romance scams where scammers would pretend to be a romantic partner and would ask vulnerable people to send them money overseas to pay for flights or things like that. But in fact, it's just it's a scammer. And then more recently, I spoke about the hi mum scams, where people sort of play on that emotion of a person wanting to help out their family members, and it's really hard to be aware when that's happening. So it's another example of the way that scams have become far more sophisticated.
Yes, that's right. And yeah, I'm just looking at Jimmy's sort of question about why are we seeing more online scams and aren't we well protected by our service providers? Yeah, I guess we just how many transactions we do online has just increased so much. And with online banking, even government wants you to interact with them online frequently. I guess with the World Wide Web, it leaves it open to people to exploit the situation and us, which makes it difficult. So thanks everybody for joining us. We had allowed some extra time for this webinar, but it doesn't appear that we have any more questions coming through. We thank you for your interest, and we hope that there's been something in the webinar today that has helped increase your awareness of the current scams and how to protect yourself from them. And please feel free to contact us via email if there's anything else that comes up for you after the webinar. And we thank all the libraries and participants in libraries that have joined us today. Thank our interpreters, and of course, thank Carleen and Finn, your presenters for today. So if there's nothing else that comes through, we'll end the webinar there, and thank everybody for your time. And of course, this has been recorded, so you can come back and watch it at a later time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Everybody.
Take care.